Using more than one camera when you're recording a video can really help level up your production and improve your workflow in a lot of ways. But when should you use more than one camera? When should there be a second one? When should there be a main one? When should you look at the second one or not look at the second one? It can kind of be a little confusing. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Speaking of which, do you know what kind of bird likes to use multiple cameras? That would be a toucan. It's been a couple of years now that I've been using a 2-camera setup when I record most of my videos. And the funny thing about it is that some people love it, some people hate it, and a lot of people don't notice at all. But it makes a huge difference for me, and so that's what I wanted to share with you because I think it might be something worth considering that could make a big difference for you too. So the reason that I use multiple cameras personally is actually pretty practical, and it has to do with editing. Typically when I'm recording a video, I have my main camera right here, and then sometimes I will crop in during the editing to emphasize a point or break things up. So really what that does is it gives this one camera 2 angles, even though I'm just recording one file. There's nothing wrong with using jump cuts, especially on YouTube, but for whatever reason, maybe about a year and a half ago, I decided that I was gonna try to cover up as many of my jump cuts as possible. And so that way when they do show up, it's usually for a specific purpose or to emphasize a point or make a joke or do a cheesy effect or something like that. And so by adding in a second camera, what that did is it now gives me a second angle, shocking I know, but with 2 angles coming from here and a third one over there, it makes the editing process really easy where I can cut between these different angles and kind of cover up jump cuts to make the videos look a little more smooth and a little more natural. So that means as soon as I'm done recording a video, I've already got 3 camera angles ready to go. And then on top of that, if I add in B-roll footage or an overhead camera or something like a screen recording, those are a lot of different elements that I can incorporate into a video to help it become more visually interesting. Sometimes there's a practical point to using a second camera as well. Typically this is a 24mm lens, which is pretty wide, and usually this is a 50mm lens, which is not quite as wide, but it does show a process here. So if I'm doing like a tutorial on the computer, sometimes I like to be able to cut to this angle where you sort of see me working on the computer and then jump to the screen recording, and it's kind of a way to transition into that. I can also put a wider lens on here sometimes if I have a bunch of equipment or something that I'm talking about or reviewing, and then you can kind of get a bigger, different view of all the stuff that I'm using in that specific video. And you might notice I'm not talking about specific cameras in this video because a lot of the stuff you can do with any 2 cameras, it doesn't really matter. I am using the Sony FX3 and the Sony a7S III. Those are 2 very, very nice cameras, but this can be done with any 2 cameras, 2 phones, a GoPro and a phone, a cinema camera, and a GoPro, an old camcorder, whatever. The basic principles can be the same no matter what 2 cameras you have set up together. Now it can be sometimes tricky if you're really picky and you want to make the footage match and balance. One of the reasons I use these 2 cameras specifically together is because they have the same image sensor, which makes it very easy to get the same image quality and the same colors and all that stuff out of them. So it's easier to match the footage. Sometimes it can be a little distracting if one camera looks one way and then you cut to the other angle and it's like totally different white balance or something like that. But most of us aren't Hollywood level colorists, so the added visual interest of a second camera kind of outweighs mismatched colors sometimes, I think. And I originally got this idea because I like it when there are documentaries where they have their main interview and then they do cut to a side angle where you kind of see some of the setup. Maybe you see the lights or the camera or something, the lights, camera, and the action behind the scenes. I just thought that looked really neat, and so I wanted to try it in my YouTube videos. Also, I won't lie, it's fun to use cameras. And so setting up different cameras and different lenses is just fun, to me at least, and being able to use a second camera lets me play with cameras more. Now ideally, each camera should serve a purpose. In my case, it's mainly for editing and to help cover up cuts and make the video seem a little smoother. You don't want to just sort of have random camera angles that you cut to. I usually try to think of what makes sense for a given thing that I'm saying. Should I be speaking directly into this camera? Should this be cropped in? Or should it be from an angle over here? Or should I be facing over here? Those are all different options to kind of keep in mind while you're filming to help make the edit better. Now, like I said earlier, there are a lot of people who don't like 2 camera angles, and it really just comes down to personal preference. I happen to love it, so I use it. I'm gonna keep using it. But there's also a debate about whether or not you should look into your second camera. Very important to remember that when you're looking into a camera, you are connecting with the viewer in a very specific way. It's like you're looking into their eyes, gazing into their beautiful eyes. And so when you have an angle where you're not looking at them, it definitely puts them into the seat of being an observer. And I've heard from people that don't like that because it sort of takes them out of the environment. Whereas if you cut to another camera and you're looking into that camera, it keeps that eye connection going. For me personally, The reason I don't do that too often is because that actually breaks the effect for me, because then I become aware that the person is aware of the multiple cameras, and that almost breaks down the effect for me. But the more practical reason I don't do that too often is when you're doing that while you're filming, you're keeping the edit in mind. So that means I know I'm gonna deliver this line to this camera and this line to that camera. But in my workflow, the purpose of the second camera is to help cover up some of the edit. So by doing this, that makes that the main camera, and I'm less able to use it to cover up things where I need to make the video feel smoother. And this angle from the side is just weird. It would cutting here and then cutting to that, it doesn't make any sense. So unless I have a really specific reason or something I've definitely planned out that I want it to be edited that way, I usually don't look into this camera, and I just keep the side view as I'm talking into this camera. But I can't emphasize enough that there is no right or wrong. If you want to look directly into the lens of both your cameras, that's great. If you don't, I guess you should probably be looking into the lens of at least one of them. That's great too. It's just whatever you like and whatever you think works best for your specific videos. And no, you will never make everybody happy. Where you position your cameras is pretty important. I definitely recommend experimenting a bit. Like, put your camera in different places and see what looks good. If you have a room where different angles just look better than other angles, in my case, I keep both cameras pretty much at the same height. They're pretty much just a little bit below eye level. And that way they cut together in a way that kind of makes sense to me. So much of your camera positioning really just does depend on your specific environment. So definitely try putting your camera in different places. I've seen people have cameras behind them. I've seen people have cameras overhead. Whatever works for you that you think is interesting and not super distracting, that's the way to go. And of course, you can go beyond 2 cameras. You can have as many cameras as you want. Personally, when I'm recording, I just record internally to both cameras, and then I sync up the footage in Final Cut Pro, and I just cut between them. You can use multicam edits in most editing software like Final Cut and Premiere if you want to. And having a second camera can also be a great option if you want backup audio. I'm not doing it today, although maybe I should. Sometimes I will run a second microphone into my second camera just in case something happens to my main mic. I know that I have backup audio that I can count on. It's always a good idea too to be able to monitor your second camera. My A7S III does have a flip out screen, but it's pretty far away from me. It's at least like 2 meters away, about 6 feet away, maybe more. And I honestly can't see the screen to check the audio levels or anything from here, because as I get older, that's harder to do. So I have a little monitor mounted here just out of frame where I can see that the camera is recording. I can see that the focus is on my eye, and then I know everything looks good and is working the whole time I'm recording. If you've never used 2 cameras in your workflow, whether it's for a personal video like something for YouTube or even a client project where you're doing interviews, I strongly encourage you to experiment with it and try it out a bit, because that new angle can add a whole new angle to your creativity. And really the only concrete warning I can give is to make sure that you're sitting with each camera angle long enough when you cut to it. Really put yourself in the viewer's shoes and think about how they're going to feel when they watch the video. Every once in a while I'll come across a video where someone has 2 camera angles, and when they cut to the second one, it's very, very quick. It's like I can't even tell what's happening and we've already cut back, and that can be really distracting. And going back to what I said at the beginning of the video, this is fun for me. Setting up multiple cameras, I enjoy that because I like working with equipment and cameras and stuff. If you hate working with equipment and setting up stuff is not fun for you, this could be a nightmare. So don't force yourself to do something like this if you absolutely hate it and it's no fun at all. But if you do like experimenting with this stuff and trying things out, you can have a whole lot of fun with it. And that's really the point. Have fun when you make videos, because it should be fun. It should be something that you enjoy, and then hopefully you make something really cool that helps other people out too. Speaking of helping people out, thank you to everyone who helps support my channel through Patreon and YouTube channel memberships. And if you want some more tips and tricks for leveling up your audio video production workflow, check out these videos right here.